have to say, as a progressive, proud member of this body for the last 12 years, I'm done. I'm done with us protecting people who would buy and abuse our children. I'm done. I don't want to send more black and brown men to prison. I don't want more people in prison, but I don't want people buying girls. I don't want people buying little girls anymore. And I'm tired of saying it's okay and that we have to protect the men who do it. As a mental health professional and as a social worker, I can tell you I've spent my entire career working with people who have been wounded. I'm not going to say beyond repair, but they have been wounded to their core by the abuse that's been heaped on them, oftentimes by those that they love and look to protect them. And if their parents won't do it, then by God, we should. Again, I am not arguing that we open the gates to flood our prisons with people, but I am arguing that we have a moral responsibility to say enough. Enough. We have given away enough on this area, and we've got to move back into the center, or we all look like fools and laughing stocks. And what do we stand for? I ask all of you to watch the documentary that Senator Grove was in, Senator from Kern County, who was just in, that talked about this very place in Sacramento where girls are being bought and sold. Men are being given a little slap in the hand or a couple days, and then they're back out again, and they do the same thing. They get caught over and over and over again, and somehow that's okay. It's not okay. It is not okay anymore. And no more am I watching. Like I said, I'm leaving, but the rest of you who are going to be here for a while, let's get our stuff together and really start focusing on some of the important things. We talk about learning and we talk about being safe. This is like at the core of it. And a lot of these kids can be throwaway kids. They're poor kids. They're kids of color. But they shouldn't have to live a life determined by what happens to them by others at a very young age. And by how the Democratic Party of California say it's okay. It's not okay. And I'm not doing it anymore, and I hope none of you do too. We have to be able to draw a line, and for me, I'm drawing the line. I urge your aye vote.
Good evening, American Patriots, and welcome to another edition of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight. You chose to be here with me, and for that, I am forever grateful. Thank you very, very much. Before we get into the little video clip that you just watched and the opening of tonight's show, today we remember the sacrifices of our military and coalition forces during D-Day, June 6, 1944. The invasion of the beaches at Normandy in northern France by troops of the United States, Canada, the United Kingdom, and other countries during World War II. France at the time was occupied by the armies of Nazi Germany, and the amphibious assault, codename Operation Overlord, landed some 156,000 Allied soldiers on the beaches of Normandy by the end of the day. Despite their success, some 4,000 Allied troops were killed by German soldiers defending those beaches. At the time, the D-Day invasion was the largest naval, air, and land operation in history. And within a few days, about 326,000 troops, more than 50,000 vehicles, and some 100,000 tons of equipment had landed on those beaches. By August of 1944, all of northern France had been liberated. And in the spring of 1945, the Allies had defeated the Germans. Historians often refer to D-Day as the beginning of the end of World War II. And sadly, we only have literally a handful of World War II veterans still with us today. In the next 5 years, there'll be none. It was a generation, at least from my personal belief and everything I've heard about it from relatives that served in World War II, a generation that's nothing that we've ever witnessed, those of us today. It was a great generation. And technology brought us a lot of good things. But at the same time, technology also helped destroy us. As we all know, well, way too much what's happening right now in America and across the globe. Anyway, let's go back to the little video clip at the opening of the show. Tonight's lead story, the video clip that you watched at the opening of the show by Democrat Congresswoman stepping down from Congress because she is sick and tired of the Democrats doing nothing to save children that are caught up in human trafficking in America. It should be a wake-up call to the Democrats all over America to do something about this problem. Because sex trafficking of children in America has become an epidemic, and it is happening in every state in America, thanks to Joe Biden's open border policies, his removal of all Trump's border policies, and the failure of the incompetent people he placed in charge in places such as Homeland Security. When you fail to act on our border, which allows the cartels to smuggle over the border women and children to be sold as sex slaves, millions of pounds of illegal narcotics like fentanyl that is killing American citizens, MS-13 and other gang members to come and kill Americans, then you are just as evil as the cartel. You are the American branch, the arm of the cartel. For 3+ long years now, Joe Biden and his Homeland Security Secretary have told the American people that there's no border crisis and that it's all made up by Republicans. So look no further, Democrats and liberals of America, than at the soon-to-be former Democrat Senator Susan Tomalitz. Then please join Republicans in fixing the problem. Besides the fact of what Joe Biden has done to our border, allowing all this to take place, as you just witnessed from the senator, and we've talked about on this show many, many times, the liberal judges and DAs across this country that just give a slap on the wrist to these pedophiles and sex traffickers, criminals. It's a revolving door, my friends. They come in one side and the judges and DAs let them out the other. The rule of law in America has been destroyed by the Democrats that are in charge in Washington, D.C. You all know that. Sadly, it's not sinking in yet to those on the left and many of the Democrats. But in due time, it will. The evil witch, Hillary Clinton, marked the 80th anniversary of D-Day operation today with a social media post to cast former President Trump as a threat to democracy on par with Nazi dictator Adolf Hitler. In an ex-post today, Clinton implied that democracy is at stake in the upcoming presidential election, with Republican nominee former President Trump challenging incumbent President Biden, a Democrat. 80 years ago today, thousands of brave Americans fought to protect democracy on the shores of Normandy, Clinton wrote in an ex-post today, formerly Twitter. This November, all we have to do is vote. The D-Day invasion of Normandy, France, on June 6, 1944, is one of the most famous moments in U.S. military history. It was a turning point in World War II and the beginning of the liberation of Europe from Nazi Germany control by American Allied forces. The implication from the failed 2016 Democrat nominee is that her former rival, Trump, is a threat to democracy similar to Hitler's Third Reich. which sought world domination through conquest. It wasn't the first time Clinton has compared Trump to Hitler. In May 21st post on X, she called him Grifter Hitler and shared an Associated Press article about a video posted to Trump's Truth Social account that referenced the unified right among hypothetical headlines if he wins the November election. The Trump campaign said that the video was created by a random account online and reposted by a staffer who clearly did not see the word. Hillary Clinton is a stone cold loser who presented over horrific Benghazi debacle and led to the death of Americans. Trump campaign spokesman Stephen Chunkada told Fox News Digital, "Nobody takes Hillary Clinton seriously because it's clear she is beckoning herself in order to stay relevant after President Trump crushed her in 2016. Trump defeated Clinton in the 2016 presidential election with 304 electoral college votes. Democrats and President Biden have consistently attacked Trump as a threat to democracy since the January 6 riots, when a mob of Trump supporters marched on the U.S. Capitol in 2021 and interrupted Congress from certifying the results of the 2020 presidential election, in which Biden defeated Trump. They have also accused Republicans of acting to disenfranchise minorities through voter IDs, limits on mail-in ballots, and other election regulations Democrats say make it harder to vote. Trump has brushed off these attacks, telling Fox News in a recent interview he is the opposite of a threat to democracy. An issue polling for the presidential election, voters consistently say they trust Biden more than Trump on topics of election integrity, preserving or protecting democracy, and ensuring fair elections. But all polls, whether it's Fox, CNN, MSNBC, ABC, NBC, CBS, found Biden losing to Donald Trump. Trump leads Biden on key issues, including the border and immigration, the economy, foreign policy, and crime. All the things that really matter right now to those that plan to vote in the November election. I have mentioned on this show many times, Hell did a complete video just about this, as have others that report on the Israeli-Hamas war, that Hamas uses civilians as human shields, which is what makes it so difficult to kill this enemy and not have civilian casualties. I've told you before, as somebody who is deployed 4 different times to combat operations, that no one, except maybe a handful, want to see any war take place. But when it does, civilian casualties will take place. Not only every war that America has been involved with since its inception have innocent men, women, and children been killed, but also every war fought on planet Earth by every country. Sadly, innocent people lose their lives. So in this situation, where Hamas is using those civilians as human shields, that's what's going to happen. There are going to be casualties. They place their military command and control facilities inside of schools, mosques, hospitals, grocery stores, and neighborhoods. Here is yet another example of these war crimes being committed by Hamas that the far left Democrats like Ilhan Omar Rashida Tlaib, Jamel Bowman, AOC, and these pro-Palestine, pro-Hamas college students protesting refuse to believe. Israeli troops have discovered an entrance to a Hamas tunnel in a home inside of a child's bedroom in Rafah today. The IDF says it recovered a trove of weapons and explosives from that tunnel. The operation is the latest, what Israel calls its precise intelligence-based targeted operations inside Rafah. This week, the troops located a tunnel inside a child's room and a butcher's knife next to it. In addition, the troops identified 6 terrorists near a school in the area. The terrorists were eliminated by a UAV and tank fire. The IDF says in a statement, images released by the IDF show troops operating in a dense urban environment in Rafah. Images also show the cache of weapons, explosives, and other equipment troops retrieved during that operation. News of the operation comes the same day as an Israeli strike took out Hamas and Islamic Jihad terrorists hiding at the United Nations School for displaced Palestinians in central Gaza. Local officials say that the strike killed more than 30 people, sadly including 23 women and children. Hamas set up military structure inside of the facility being used by the United Nations that displaces Palestinians. They are some sick, evil, I won't even call them people. They're subhuman. Israel said it was targeting a Hamas compound inside the school containing 20 to 30 fighters, and that many of them were killed. Witnesses and hospital officials said the pre-dawn strike hit the Al-Sadri school run by the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine Refugees. The school was filled with Palestinians who had fled Israeli offenses and bombardment in northern Gaza. We have eliminated several Hamas and Islamic jihadi terrorists who embedded themselves inside the United Nations Palestine Refugee School. IAF fighter jets conducted a precise strike on Hamas compound embedded inside the school in an area located there. These terrorists belong to the Nakba forces and participated in the October 7th massacre that took place in Israel. The IDF said a number of steps were taken before the strike today to reduce the risk of harming uninvolved civilians during the strike, including conducting aerial surveillance and additional intelligence information and sending out thousands and thousands of leaflets letting them know what's about to happen. The trial of Joe Biden's crackhead son, Hunter Biden, finished up its 4th day today in court. And so far, each day and each witness have proven that Hunter Biden is in deep trouble for his lying when he purchased a gun by claiming he was not a drug user. This trial, by the way, is just the first one. He's faced with not paying income taxes on the over $1 million he took from China and Ukraine. That trial will start when this one ends. So, a video showing members of the media, intelligence officials, and prominent Democrats calling the Hunter Biden laptop story Russian disinformation went viral yesterday after FBI officials confirmed the laptop was real and belonged to the president's son during his Delaware criminal trial. The video featured former chief of staff at the CIA and Department of Defense, Jeremy Bash, who told MSNBC at the time that it looked like Russian intelligence and walked like Russian intelligence. This effort by Rudy Giuliani and the New York Post and Steve Bannon to cook up supposedly dirt on Joe Biden looks like a classic Russian playbook disinformation campaign, Bash said. So when the Intelligence Committee goes in and warns Donald Trump that Rudy Giuliani is being worked over by Russian intelligence, and Rudy Giuliani suddenly comes forward with these mysteriously created emails, probably hacked through a Russian intelligence operation, we have to acknowledge the fact that the President of the United States is supporting, is condoning, is welcoming a Russian intelligence operation in 2020, he added. This is collusion in plain sight, he continued. There are 50 former national intelligence folks who said that what he's accusing me of is Russian plant. President Biden said of the laptop during a 2020 debate with Donald Trump, referring to a story Politico published at the time of the letter signed by members of the intelligence community. 5 former leads of the CIA said he's saying is a bunch of garbage. Nobody believes it except his girlfriend, Rudy Giuliani. The president continued, the New York Post first reported the contents of Hunter Biden's laptop in 2020, roughly a month before the presidential election. The story was widely dismissed as Twitter and Facebook limited users' ability to share the story. Eric O'Neill, a security strategist, told CBS News at the time that it looked like classic disinformation campaign and said the Russians were likely the ones behind the laptop, according to the video of several intel officials and liberal media hosts. Former CIA Director John Brennan, one of the 50 who signed the letter, said at the time that it did bear the hallmarks of Russian disinformation. Representative Raja Kirschmont, Democrat of Illinois, responded to MSNBC's Haley Jackson, who said the Post story at the time was highly questionable and dubiously sourced, according to Rudy Giuliani, and called him a vehicle for Russia, and suggested anyone claiming there was no evidence or it didn't make any sense. MSNBC host Ari Melber conceded that the network wasn't covering the laptop because of journalistic reasons and said they would never air dubious misinformation. Several media pundits pushed a report by the Washington Post that claimed Russia was feeding Giuliani misinformation to pass on to Trump. CNN's Wolf Blitzer and Alex Morak said at the beginning, the laptop was likely part of a Russian's latest interference in the U.S. election. We do know it is a very active Russian campaign, he said, citing U.S. intelligence officials. He said on CNN at the time that the laptop was classic textbook Soviet-Russian tradecraft at work. The Russians have analyzed the target. They understand that the president and his elders and handlers crave dirt on Vice President Biden, whether it's real or converted. It doesn't matter to them. And so all of a sudden, 2.5 weeks before the election, this laptop appears somehow in the emails without any metadata. It's all very curious, he said. Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat, California, said during an interview with CNN at the time, it was clear Trump and the Kremlin were behind Hunter Biden's laptop. The Kremlin has an obvious interest in going after Joe Biden. They want Donald Trump to win. They recognize he's a weak president, Schiff said. Clearly, they want to help him. So they want to degrade the vice president. The intelligence community has made that abundantly clear. He also called the laptop story Kremlin propaganda. We start this hour with the tale of international espionage connected to close confidant of the President of the United States, MSNBC's Al Besher said October 17th, 2020. The president, Donald Trump, was reportedly warned that his personal attorney, former New York City Mayor Rudy Giuliani, was the target of a Russian intelligence operation, a story that was unraveling to reveal allegations of disinformation, dirt tricks, and a federal probe over Russian efforts to disparage Joe Biden. Former Biden campaign advisor Seymour Sanders Townsend, who now hosts a weekend show on MSNBC, appeared on the network in 2020 and bluntly stated that any attempts by then President Trump to amplify the story would be viewed as Russian disinformation. And lo and behold, if the FBI doesn't bring the laptop into the courtroom and it's submitted as evidence, and they verify that it is 100% real, it was Hunter Biden's, even his ex-wife and ex-girlfriend testified that it was real, that the emails were real, that the pictures were real, that everything in it is real. But there was this huge push that it was Russian disinformation and Russian collusion. And some of them, sadly, are still pushing that narrative. A federal Trump derangement syndrome judge has ordered Steve Bannon, a top ally of former President Trump, who previously served as chief strategist for the White House, to report to prison on July 1st to serve a 4-month sentence for contempt of Congress. Thursday's decision by Judge Carlos Nicholas revokes Bannon's bail. The outlet reported that Bannon lost an appeal in May to overturn his conviction for contempt of Congress. The Trump ally was sentenced to 4 months in prison for failing to respond to a congressional subpoena to testify before the storming of the Capitol on January 6th of 2021. While Bannon claimed that he did not intend to break the law by failing to respond to a congressional subpoena, and that he was acting on behalf of what his legal team's advice was. They told him, his lawyers told him, you do not have to go to this. Judge Bradley Garcia countered that acting on advice of counsel is no defense at all. So now we have to question, if we end up in a situation where we need legal advice, we have to question whether or not we're getting the right advice. And how the hell do you do that? And obviously, as we know, judges and DAs, we have to question them too. Bannon was instantly sentenced in October of 2022. In addition to the prison sentence, Bannon was ordered to pay a $6,500 fine. Following his initial sentence, Bannon said, I want to say one thing. I respect the judge, the sentence he came down with today, and his decision. I've been totally respectful of this entire process on the legal side. According to CBS News, judge issued his ruling today, explaining that he can no longer conclude that Bannon's appeal raises substantial questions of the law after the recent decision by the appeals court panel to uphold Bannon's conviction. Following today's order for Bannon to report to prison on July 1st, he said, this is about shutting down the MAGA movement, shutting down grassroots conservatives, shutting down President Trump. There is not a prison built or a jail built that will ever shut me up, Bannon added. CBS News reported that Bannon also announced that his legal team is planning to take this case all the way to the Supreme Court. Now, I want to stop for a minute. It's not really a question because it's more of a statement, I guess. And you can look it up and check the facts for yourself. Over the history of America, how many Democrats have not responded to subpoenas from Congress, and not any of them went to jail. Even Republicans, for that matter, have done the same thing. And they don't get sent to jail, especially when they're just following the advice of the attorneys that they're paying hundreds of thousands of dollars to. But as we know, there is a coordinated effort by the Democrats that are up in Washington, D.C., that have control of the Senate and 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue and all of our country's agencies. It's a coordinated effort to weaponize the justice system, the FBI, the Department of Justice, judges and DAs against Donald J. Trump and his supporters, Republicans and conservatives. You see, Joe Biden can't run on his great things he's done for America. He can't run on his accomplishments because you can count them all on one hand with a finger chopped off. Everything Joe Biden has touched, he's broken. Everything that Trump put into place to make this country great again, that was removed by Obama and Biden during their time, Biden came in and immediately withdrew it all, making us once again dependent on foreign oil, people that don't like us, stripped away all the border policies to remain in Mexico, for instance, allowing millions to come across our border. And now we know, even Joe Biden's own FBI director has said that there are terrorists from the Middle East in America that are going to strike us in the near future. We know that because there's been over 1 million gotaways, and they've already caught several hundred terrorists that were on the no-fly list that had no other way to get to America because they would be arrested as soon as they tried to board an airplane, if not then when they landed. So they go south and they come up with a cartel. And sadly, we have the same problem with gang members and sex traffickers and those that are bringing over drugs. Our southern cities, counties, across our border is like a third world country right now. You know, I went down there back in 2019 and 2020 and did several reports from there, did a couple of documentaries on it. If you haven't seen them, they're on DouglasDucote.com, where you can go look at them and watch them yourself. And I just exposed what other news agencies on the right have exposed, and that is it's a freaking disaster down there. And now, when I went down there, Donald Trump was still the president. And it was a disaster with him trying to clean it up. So imagine, with all the policies that Trump was putting into place and building a freaking wall, what happened when Biden comes in and just reverses everything? Now, it's an utter disgrace. And it's going to affect me and you. Now, every state in America is a border state. Every law enforcement agency in every state in this country is dealing with illegal immigration. And not just innocent men and women. No, those that don't have anything to hide go through the proper channels where they can come through border checkpoints. Think about this. Who wants to come across the Rio Grande swimming or trekking through hundreds of miles of desert and rock mountains, for crying out loud, when they can just go to the border checkpoints and apply for asylum there? The people that are doing this, folks, are the people you do not want in your country. They're the people that want to do us harm. Now, are there a few innocent people mixed into that group? I'm sure there are. In fact, I have no doubt that there are, because they don't have the intelligence to realize that it was easier to go a different route. And Democrats push this narrative about how Republicans are so against immigration, and we hate Mexicans, and we hate Muslims, and it's a sickness. I've never heard a Republican or conservative say that we're against immigration, because we're all immigrants. Every living human being on planet Earth came from immigrants in this country. But we believe in the rule of law, and we believe in legal immigration. That's the difference. We do not believe in illegal immigration and breaking our laws and then coming here and demanding shit. No. We're the only country that will allow that kind of stuff to happen. Why have the Democrats not rose up against this type of crap? Those of you that have been watching this show for a long time, you know that I used to be a Democrat, proud Democrat. All my family were Democrats. Hell, my cousin was the Democrat governor of this state of Louisiana for several terms. And years later, as an adult, I realized that I was just a sheep following somebody right off a cliff, and that it was all an illusion, and that they were the party of racism, the party that fought against Abraham Lincoln to release the slaves, the party that fought for segregation, the party that founded the KKK, the party that founded Planned Parenthood for the purpose of killing black babies. And even today, right now, in 2024, little has changed with the Democrat Party. And we're talking about those in power. I'm not talking about all Democrats. I'm talking about those in power. Even today, they are enslaving black people in this country. How, Doug? How is that possible? What are you saying? You look at every major metropolitan city in the United States of America where crime is out of control because it's run by Democrat mayors who elect their sheriff or elect their city police chief who follows their directions. They're liberal Democrats. And those are the places where you will find Antifa, Black Lives Matter, riots, looting, destruction of property, setting police cars on fire. And black on black crime is an epidemic of young black youth shooting and killing each other on the streets. Those are areas that are literally shithole areas of a city that are poor, that have no good infrastructure. They live in shacks in downtown Pennsylvania or Oakland, California, or New Orleans or Baton Rouge or Memphis, Tennessee or Atlanta, Georgia. Pick one. If a Democrat's running it, what's happening to that city? That's not to say that in Republican-run cities, there's not crime, because there is. But it's like night and day. And yet, sadly, for years, somewhere along the line, a good percentage of African Americans thought the Democrat Party was the party for them. I don't know how that's possible, except when that started changing, there wasn't a thing called the internet. And slowly but surely, the Democrats that are African Americans are coming around because of the internet. And now they can see Black leaders that are Republican and conservatives, and people like myself that do shows that used to be a Democrat, explaining what the real problem is and who the real racist bigots are. And they're starting to see that. And eventually, the Republicans are going to have the majority of the Black vote, which they should have had all along. We saw this shift when Trump won against Hillary Clinton. We saw an overwhelming number of African Americans that voted for Trump. And regardless of what you think of Donald Trump, whether you hate the guy or you love the guy, set that aside. Everybody knows what Trump did in 4 years. During a pandemic, and while being constantly attacked as a Russian spy, drug into courtrooms, and even have members of Congress go after him and impeach him. And still, under all that duress, he made this country better than it was under the 8 years of Obama Biden. And now, all voters, Democrat, whether you're Black or white, it doesn't matter, have had the opportunity to see for 3+ years what Joe Biden is capable of doing and not doing. And now they've woken up. There are more Democrats coming over to Republican and conservative side than ever in the history of this country. And that is a great thing. And that's why it's very important that you vote. It's very important that you get family members that maybe aren't registered to vote. It's very important that you share this knowledge with the youth of our society. Bring people to the polling booths with you. Don't go by yourself. Bring your friends. Bring your family members. Make sure they can get there. And share videos that point out factual information, like mine, for instance. Share these videos. There's several conservatives, great conservatives, that are on YouTube, that are on Rumble, that are on X, that are sharing information with you that needs to get to these people that have drank the Kool-Aid. And the only way that's going to happen is if they see it popping up all over social media platforms that they love to go to because they're addicted to this damn thing. Every now and then we get one that'll watch it, and then they'll hear what we're saying and they go, oh, that's bullshit. And then if they have the intelligence to look it up, then they realize, wait a minute, this is actually, they're telling the truth. You know, there's a movie out right now called Flynn. It's a documentary, basically, about General Flynn. And if you haven't seen it, I wish that not only will you see it, you can find it. It's all over different platforms on, things like Netflix and stuff like that. I mean, it's there. Just look it up. There's several platforms you can go to watch this documentary called Flynn, for Michael Flynn, the general. And you will be blown away at what the Democrats are capable of doing and have done. And you will also see firsthand that the narrative that the Democrats in Congress tried to push and CNN and MSNBC bought and tried to sell about him was 100% not true. There was no merit behind any of it. And they went out of their way to try and destroy this man using the power of the Department of Justice and the FBI. You will come away after watching that movie knowing damn good and well, 100% guaranteed, that the Democrats have weaponized our justice system against Republicans and conservatives and Donald Trump. Flynn, Flynn. Look that up. Watch that documentary. I beg you, and tell your family and friends about it. Folks, we're going to end a few minutes early tonight because I'm very tired. I've had a long couple of days. I am leaving here about 4 a.m., I think, in the morning to head to New Orleans to catch a flight up to Oklahoma, where I will be a guest speaker at a Second Amendment organization. And I'm looking very forward to going up there and meeting these wonderful folks that are fighting really hard to keep our Second Amendment rights. And they're doing great things up in Oklahoma that I wish that all places across our country could watch what they're doing and follow suit. So I'm heading out tomorrow to do that. I'll be up in Oklahoma for a couple of days. Come back for a couple of days, and then we're off to Detroit, Michigan for the People's Conference. Donald Trump will be there. Steve Bannon was supposed to be there. I don't know if he can still be there or not, because I think it's July 1st he has to report to prison. So he'll probably still be there. Candace Owen, Charlie Clerk. There's all kinds of conservatives that will be speaking. It's put on by Turning Point USA. You can go to my community section and you can find a link, a community section in my YouTube channel, and you can find a link where you can go check that out, look it up. And if you're able to get up there or you live in that area, please do so. It's going to be a great event with thousands of American patriots, conservatives, and Republicans that are ready to take back this country and put to sleep what we've been having to live through for the past 3+ years. I'll be there on Media Row. I have my own booth set up. Stop by. If you're a subscriber to this channel and you watch the Douglas Ducote Show, come by. I want to shake your hand and thank you personally. I'd love to be able to do that with all those that support this show and all the things that we do. If you haven't already done so, please subscribe to this channel. In the description of this video and all of my shows, all my videos, you can see the other places you can follow me on social media. Follow me there. I will do the same in return. That's how we do this. That's how we get the information out there. We share it. Social media is a very, very powerful tool that has been used by the Democrats successfully. And now Republicans and conservatives need to get on board and figure out that we can do this and we will do this. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving in the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. And if you do not know what blue and gold star families are or what angel families are, please Google it, because they need our support more today than ever before in the history of this country, because this current administration is literally pissing on the graves of their loved ones. And that in itself should be enough to make any Democrat switch parties if they knew the truth. Thank you. God bless you. Have a wonderful night. And I'm off to Oklahoma in the morning. And I'll see you all real soon. God bless everybody.